All right, Tether executives are reportedly facing a Department of Justice criminal probe for bank fraud. According to Bloomberg, a story published today claims that the Department of Justice is probing Tether on whether its executives committed bank fraud. As you know, we've been doing a Twitter investigation here on the podcast for the past couple of weeks, maybe even months now. And slowly but surely, we're figuring out how this stablecoin, a cryptocurrency that's backed reportedly dollar for dollar with the US dollar. And we found out that they no longer do that. They've got a collection of assets. Well, this is a separate issue, it seems, than their holdings. And this is on top of their top two executives being MIA and the two other executives who are very vocal on Twitter, their general counsel and their CTO, being on CNBC last week and never mentioning anything about this. So this is typically what happens in the case of a fraud or people who were playing fast and loose with regulations. We don't know what this is. At the very least, it seems like they're loosey-goosey with regulations here. Obviously, the New York Attorney General had sanctioned previously and come to a settlement with Tether because they lied about being one-for-one pegged to the dollar. They keep brushing that off. But Bloomberg published an article today which claimed that the Department of Justice is in fact probing Tether on whether its executives committed bank fraud. And it looks like someone at the DOJ leaked this information to Bloomberg, which cited 3 unnamed sources familiar with the matter. Now, again, unnamed sources, but there's 3 of them. And there's been all this smoke around Tether. And there's in fact been fire with the New York Attorney General banning Tether from working with New York residents. So there is actually a fire here. And the question is, how big is the fire? There's a ton of smoke, and all of the different journalistic entities out there with any kind of an investigative group or sources are starting to ping people. That's typically what happens in these kind of cases. It happened with Theranos, with the Wall Street Journal and other sources. And these kind of things with Madoff, they go from being on the fringe to becoming mainstream. And we'll see if this ends like Theranos or Madoff, or if they just put it behind them and it's a speeding ticket. It doesn't feel like a speeding ticket to me at this point. It feels like something a little more serious, perhaps with the risk of ruin. We'll get into that. But according to the article, federal prosecutors are not going after Tether for any recent crimes. Okay, so this is something historical, according to the article. The DOJ is reportedly, and this is a quote, focused on conduct that occurred years ago when Tether was in its more nascent stages. Specifically, federal prosecutors are scrutinizing whether Tether concealed from banks that transactions were linked to crypto. This seems like something they would do, I'll be totally honest, in many crypto exchanges. People who are trying to get their money into the crypto economy need an on-ramp. What's the on-ramp? Typically, it's wiring money from your bank and then buying that crypto. Or I guess you could send a check or do an ACH. Somehow getting your money into this casino is the issue. Now, banks who are very, very particular about who they do business with here in the United States because of KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering statutes and regulations, these things are very acute. They come with the risk of ruin. Banks can be shut down for not following these. And in fact, people can go to jail for money laundering, obviously, and not knowing who their customers are. So specifically, federal prosecutors are scrutinizing, again, this is the quote, whether Tether concealed from banks that transactions were linked to crypto. Here's the quote. The current focus on bank fraud suggests prosecutors may have moved on from pursuing a case tied to market manipulation. So there's also been this theory that the printing of tethers was occurring maybe out of sync with reality in some way, and then that was being used in a coordinated way to raise the price of Bitcoin. I believe that Bitcoin has been manipulated many times. If you are looking at an anonymous cryptocurrency or a pseudo-anonymous one, it's really easy to paint the tape and create order flow that's not real to boost up the attention of this particular currency. And in fact, there's a group on Telegram where they pump crypto assets, on a weekly or monthly basis, and everybody's supposed to buy at the same time and hold forever. And you know how this goes. It's just standard pump and dump nonsense. So maybe this isn't about Tether manipulating the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum, and maybe it's not about their holdings in commercial paper, maybe from China, maybe some Fugazi paper. Who knows what's going on there, because they won't simply tell us. If Tether had nothing to hide, they would simply say, here's our commercial paper. They, on CNBC, said They have international paper, but they wouldn't specifically say it's China. We've had people on the program talk about they think it's Chinese paper. Who knows? But if it is Chinese paper and China's coming apart right now in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of IPOs and the government closing ranks, I mean, what if the government in China just says, hey, yeah, your commercial paper is not worth anything here? Or what if they were buying commercial paper that was, worth 10 cents on the dollar, but it appears to be $100, but they paid $10 for it? You get the idea. There's all kinds of weird stuff that occurs if you are, or your mind wanders to places when you don't disclose the holdings that they have. So I said last week on episode 1250, after we saw the CNBC interview, that I felt that the general counsel and CTO, they did not seem like they were being, this is just my read on it as a poker player, they didn't seem like they were super confident or being upfront about it. So I think they might be in a cleanup process. I also have a question that I would have asked, which is to the CTO. Are you involved in the purchase of commercial paper? Have you ever been involved in the purchase of commercial paper? Have you ever seen the commercial paper held by Tether? Yes or no? When is the last time you had access to that commercial paper? It may turn out that the CTO is the fall guy. Maybe the CTO has never seen any of this paper, and they're putting him out there to take the daggers and to take the bullets, take the arrows for the, CEO and CFO who nobody's seen because they are media shy, according to the CTO and general counsel when they were on CNBC. They're like, yeah, they don't like to be in the limelight. Trust me, if my company or any normal person's company was under this amount of scrutiny, DOJ, New York Attorney General, Jim Cramer, Financial Times, Bloomberg, CoffeeZilla, myself, everybody asking these questions constantly, the CEO would of course come forward and say, I'm the CEO. Here's what's going on at my company. I am the CFO. The buck stops at my desk. Here is what's happening with our company. If the CFO and the CEO will not talk to the press and to their customers publicly and address these issues, that kind of, for me, that's the end of the line. I would never participate in any of these financial systems if the CEO and the CFO are in the worst case, on the lam and afraid of getting arrested, which who knows, maybe this DOJ is the reason they're not talking and the reason nobody knows where they are, or their location seems to be a mystery because maybe they're in a jurisdiction where they don't have an extradition treaty. Who knows? Again, when you have this kind of opaqueness in, a serious situation, it's pretty clear to me what's going on. If anybody in my family or anybody who is a friend said, should I do business with a company that the New York Attorney General has banned from New York, that's under DOJ investigation, that will not answer questions, that will not just tell you what's going on, and their CEO and CFO are MIA, press shy, on the lam, who knows what the accurate description here is? I would say absolutely not. It's time for another OurCrowd deal of the week. Right now, you can join OurCrowd's investment in Ripple. According to the deal memo, Ripple is an established innovator in the rapidly growing multi-billion-dollar dairy alternative market. Ripple offers alternatives to milk, protein shakes, creamer, and more with proprietary tech that lowers impurities for superior taste and nutrition. You can get in early on Ripple and other unique opportunities by signing up for free at ourcrowd.com/twist. By the way, did you know that OurCrowd investors were able to get into some of the best IPOs of 2019 and 2020? They benefited from companies IPOing like Beyond Meat and Lemonade. And some of OurCrowd's companies have been acquired by buyers like Intel, Nike, Microsoft, Oracle, and Uber. Yum, yum. With OurCrowd, accredited investors can invest directly and easily in startups early, before they IPO or get bought. As you review deals, you have access to OurCrowd's investor relations team, who you can talk to directly on the phone about your personal investment goals. Again, the OurCrowd account is free. Just go to OurCrowd.com/twist.